Behind every people pleasing, perfectionism, emotional overwhelmed behavior, there's any story. And usually their story starts with the mother. In this video, I want to talk about that and how we can reclaim our truth. Welcome back to another video. If you have been watching my videos, following my channel, you probably know that I am starting a business guided by my intuition, and in my videos I like to share all the insights, all the breakthroughs that I've been collecting during this process, in this journey. This subject, it's a very close one to my heart. It's one of those things that I have felt in different moments in my journey already, where I'm like, I'm a master, I'm a pro, I won't have to deal with this anymore. And it continues surprising me because yeah, when I thought I was just the queen of setting out boundaries with people, mastering my people pleasing behaviors, and yeah, life just presents me another opportunity. So I am right at a moment in my life where I had to sit for a little bit with the surprise, and I was like, okay, here we go again. I'm choosing to honor that it keeps presenting, because I am realizing that the fact that I've been working so much on this aspect in my life, I am pretty sure that there's gonna be so much gold on the other side. So if maybe you're feeling the same, you're not alone. We are in this together, and I'm sure after learning and practicing so much this theme in our lives, the shifting of these behaviors, there's something special that's gonna be on the other side, or probably you're already experiencing something really special. Why this matters? Why working with these energies, with these dynamics, shifting these behaviors matter? I'm going to share a little bit about my personal experience, so I'm sure you will be able to relate. As you know, I am starting a business guided by my intuition, and it's not that I only turn on my intuition when I'm going to work on my business. I do life in that way. And that means that I practice and I'm being as present as I can during the day. So when we are the observers of our lives, when we are in that presence, observing the things that are presenting, the people that come into our lives, the experiences that come into our lives, we start realizing that there's always opportunities to learn, to expand, to transform. And I've been moving from one city to another. I am at the moment in a transition in between places. I am visiting some family in Tampa, and I've been around a lot with new people, so new dynamics, new personalities. And usually those are moments where you start, a lot of our behaviors and patterns start activating, because we're kind of out of our comfort zones, and yeah, it's the unknown, so we don't know what's gonna happen. Everything is new. So that's where I am, and I started noticing very loudly the people-pleasing behavior being activated in me, because usually when we are in the spectrum of the people pleaser, when we are on this side of the spectrum, usually what we're dealing with is with personalities of the controlling personalities and manipulative personalities. So I started seeing, there was a wave of that again in my life, and my people pleaser was activated. So of course, why it matters is because I am uncomfortable. I'm not comfortable in that energy. When I see that I go into that identity, it's just really uncomfortable, because I don't feel like I can be as free as I want. Especially because right now that's something that I want. I want to feel as that I can express myself freely, that I can be the authentic human I am. So that's why it matters, because it allowed us to be who we really want to be. Before we start diving deep into this subject, I would love to share two things. first of all, I wanted to record the video here right in front of the tree, because in that tree there's a beautiful owl. I don't know if you guys have seen already my tattoo. It's owls are really special for me, and since I got to this place, I've been enjoying so much being around them, experiencing for first time, because I think I saw them a couple of times flying when I was in California, but it's very different when you see them flying kind of far away from you than when you are witnessing their lifestyle, how beautiful they are. So sorry that I already got inspired with this story. So I thought initially that it was a bunch of owls that were living in that tree, but now I see there are a few different trees where they hang out, and I thought it was a female and a male. But the cutest thing that adds so much to this story is that there's a baby. There's a beautiful baby owl. I'll probably share some pictures here or videos of them. And yeah, later in the video I'm gonna explain how all these things connected. But that's why I'm here. That's why we are dry. That's really hard to see. We will see how I will figure it out. The second thing that I would like to say before we start diving deep in this subject, we are talking about our mothers, so it can be a sensitive subject. So bring a lot of compassion, love, acceptance. And if at some point this video feels a little heavy, triggering, uncomfortable, save it and come back later if you're not at the emotional space to dive deep, because we are not always in that energy. What is the mother wound? It sounds like a very complex idea, but it is as simple as this. When we are babies, when we are little, if we don't receive unconditional love, emotional presence, and safety, we create survival strategies. These strategies become the patterns we carry through adulthood. The people pleasing, the perfectionism, the controlling behaviors, the fear of rejection, the hiding, the shrinking. The way this shows up in our adulthood looks like not being able to set out boundaries because we feel that if we do it, we are going to be too much. Shrinking ourselves to make others comfortable. I think one very big one that I've been seeing in conversations lately a lot with people is feeling responsible for others' emotions. I'd love you to sit with that one for a little bit and feel if in any way in your life, maybe small, in a small version, you do it with others, seeking for external validation to feel worthy. It's present for everyone in a different way, so I'm just going to share how it has presented for me. Since I was born, my parents were divorced, so the context of my house is that I was closer to my dad, my sister was closer to my mom. We were living with my mom, and we would see my dad every other weekend. So since my mom and my sister were closer, and I didn't have my team at the house, I created a little behaviors of rejection towards my mom. Like I became like the little rebel and fighter, and with my dad I developed this way of, I started becoming the people pleaser. You know, my needs weren't met when I was little at home, so whenever I would be around my dad and probably with other grown-ups, I would be the biggest people pleaser, doing everything that I thought people wanted me to do and say, so I would get the validation. And I see a lot of, the perfectionism, because I was the youngest also. There's this very common, I think, with siblings, the competition and comparison. So I think in my house, both parents also were very strict in different ways. So the perfectionism also, it's very easy when you're a people pleaser to have that other one. The perfectionism and the people pleasing go hand in hand. So that's a little bit of how the dynamic at home for me shaped this behavior for me. As I shared earlier, for me has been a theme, a very important pattern to work on, because I am this very free spirit, very independent, and I have seen in my life all these dynamics with personalities that are very manipulative, very controlling, and that just, it's the opposite to what makes me feel good. So I started recognizing that, and I have seen every time I go through a wave, because that's how it feels these days, when these experiences, these dynamics show up in my life. It's just like, ooh, one more wave. Um, when I work through those waves of setting up boundaries with people, being more in my own frame of reality, um, shifting the perfectionism, that just creates a lot of freedom. I get to be who I truly am. I discover deeper and deeper layers of who I am, because when we are running from these behaviors, we are so much in the mind. We are analyzing. If you think about the people pleaser behavior, when you are pleasing others, you are in this state where you're just like obsessed, figuring out, like, you're not aware of this, you know. It's so much of how we have done life for many years that it's just the autopilot. And but when you are doing it, it's just, you put a lot of energy, all your focus in figuring out what is the thing that you have to say, do, pretend, how you're gonna perform for others to be comfortable and like you and give you that approval and validation. That it's just like, when we get to understand how all these things work, I feel like the more we visit these ideas, these concepts, the more compassion we develop, because we start seeing that the one part of ourselves that's still doing those things is our inner child, the little versions of ourselves that didn't get that validation from my mom, that didn't get to be seen at home, you know. Jesus Christ. Okay, it's a golf ball. I thought it was an alligator, because there are alligators in the lake. So, freedom and just discovering who you truly are. You know, the opportunity to get to be who you truly freaking are, which is really amazing. That really, really amazing feeling. You are reviewing your story, your dynamics in your own family, and what you are being presented with at the moment. I really want to emphasize and invite you to have as much compassion, because the more love and the more compassion we use during these processes, I think the easiest we open up to the shift, to the transformation. Because if we understand transformation, one thing is allowing ourselves to do the healing part, right? To go back and meet those little versions of ourselves, sit with them. This is pure inner child work. Right? We go back in childhood and we sit with that little version, and we are present with those little versions of ourselves, and we give them the attention, the love, everything they needed. Something important that is coming to my mind is being with those versions of ourselves without trying to fix them, without trying to tell them, you're broken, poor little thing, you are such a people pleaser now in your 30s. let me let me fix you now. I think, yeah, if you think of love, if you haven't been in a romantic relationship, think about movies, books, or other images of unconditional love that you might have if you have already experienced love in your life. Connect with that energy, and bring that energy to this practice of sitting with your inner child. From that unconditional acceptance and love, sit with that version of yourself and do the healing. Because what happens is that if we go into the past with resentment, with our parents and trying to blame, like you didn't do the right thing, that's only going to keep us in the loop of resentment and blame, and it's not going to allow us to experience the freedom. That's one side of the thing, and the other side of this part of the process is that one thing is the healing, and the other big part of the transformation process is the taking action. So of course the dynamics are going to present again, and if we come to the dynamic still with resentment, you're not going to change. You're going to probably react from the same place. You're not gonna resentment, when we think about those emotions of anger, resentment, um, that's our nervous system being contracted and we are in fear. But when we have love and compassion and acceptance, our nervous system, our whole being is in this space, in this energy of relaxation, and that's when inspiration and new ideas come through us, and that's when we get actually to respond from a new place. So that's why it's so important to be aware of giving yourself the space to heal. If you need to cry, journal. Something that I've been noticing in my personal experience recently is that giving myself time. Sometimes I like to go fast in life, and giving myself time has been the most healing and beautiful thing ever. How I'm giving a space to myself, I am communicating with people that, and that's also allowing me to step into another level of vulnerability, which is I'm super proud of, because I tend to, when I'm going through processes, when I'm working on this kind of stuff, I try to hide, and that's been creating a little, my dynamics with the people I love is becoming a little dysfunctional when I do that. So I am practicing this beautiful vulnerability. And a quick tip that I can share: ChatGPT is my best friend for many things, and I have a chat for the things that I'm working on with ChatGPT. And I even send screenshots of my conversation. I'm like, okay, please help me. This is what I want to communicate. I want to tell them that I need a space. Now I get to say to the people I love in a very loving way, this is what I need. I need some space, and that's been super healing, allowing myself to take as much time as I can. And the beautiful thing is that now I get to enjoy this time also, because I'm not worried or I'm not feeling guilty because I didn't communicate with the people I love that I needed that. So yeah, just giving you some ideas of how you can also navigate these moments. Just to close the video, I want to break down a little bit the inner child healing that I do. Again, I have other videos about inner child healing, inner child work. What I like to do: I love journaling, I love meditating, I love spending time in nature. I think it's very beautiful. That's something that I've been realizing too. I think when we are curious about self-discovery, I think this is something that took me a while to realize and to understand and to shift. And it's that in a way we are so committed, and we have all this good intention of working and changing and creating the new life we want. But I don't think a lot of us come into this place as we go, as the same way when we go to an amazing trip or to have an amazing adventure experience, right? I feel like a lot of times it feels almost like an obligation, like, okay, have to do this, and there's a lot of even stress and tension and all these things. So I am curating and focusing on enjoying these moments. So taking, some time in nature, enjoying the sun, a nice sunset, a nice walk in nature, a bath, something that feels good, for the current version of yourself, that feels good, to be able to go deep in the past in memories that might not be our favorites. So yeah, find your own way once you are there, you know, with the memory that came up with your mother, not giving you that unconditional love. Sit there, allow all the emotion to come up. If you need to cry, if you need to feel whatever you need to feel, allow it. Because when you are in that tenderness, I think the more tender we are, the more we enter that space, the more we connect with that version of ourselves that needed at that moment the unconditional love, the emotional presence from our mother. And the same way as we talk to our lovers, to our partners, to the people we love, uh, talk in that same language, in that same warmth to that little version of yourself. Or try to imagine also, if you like children, how you interact with children, bring a little bit of that energy. But also it's so beautiful, the more we do this kind of work, the more curious we get, the more we start realizing that we just need to be present, with the memory, and we start seeing and feeling whatever we need to do. We start connecting with that little version of ourselves, and we start realizing that that little version of ourselves wants to be held, wants to play, wants to dance. They ask us for things. We know it, we feel it. So allow yourself to open to this experience with your heart. Go in there with your heart open, with so much love. Sit with that little version of yourself. And yeah, I can share a little bit of what I do. It's like, I am here, I love you, brought me to where I am today. Usually those little versions of ourselves, they feel, what's the word for this, they feel proud of who we are now. If you think when you were little, like thinking about when you were little, thinking about who you are going to be when you are older, I think it used to be the most fun thing. So think if that little version wouldn't be so incredible proud of who you are now. Important thing with this little practice is, yes, be as present. Do your breath work, or whatever you feel inspired to do in that moment of connection with the little version of yourself. But be very committed to not only leave that moment there, because in the moment we just do that and we forget about it, that's abandoning ourselves. That's a version of abandoning ourselves. So go in there and put all your love or your intention in doing that connection with your little inner child, but commit to that little inner child that you are going to be present, and come back to normal life to be present. And whenever you feel that discomfort, that little emotion again, ground yourself, be there, because the discomfort is that little version of yourself screaming, throwing a tantrum, saying, I am freaking out, I don't know what's going on. Because that's what happens when we are little. Only until we are 14 years old, we start understanding, we start having context of what's going on in the world. We start understanding, oh, this is what it means to be stressed out. That might be happening to our mom or parents. Before that, we don't have that understanding, that analytical mind. We haven't developed our analytical mind to understand that. So imagine 14 years of our lives not being able to understand our emotions and what we needed. Enjoy, have so much fun, be so gentle, the most gentle you can with yourself, And I cannot wait if you guys would like to share, you know, what's on the other side for you after you do this little healing and you start going into your life, responding to life from that place of awareness, of understanding where all this pain comes from, um, and how it's in your hands. Is you have the power to achieve, to transform this, and you don't need to blame mom, you don't need to blame anyone. It is in your hands, and from now on you are going to, yeah, make the decisions you want to make about your life and experience hopefully more freedom, more anything that you would like to experience, anything else that you would like to experience in your life. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you on my next video. Peace and love.